Sea War Museum in northern Denmark says it has found a missing Nazi submarine. Researchers released these renderings of a German U-boat found on the seafloor just north of the country's coast.
Divers have made quite a discovery off the wreck of a German U-boat. It was sunk by the U.S. Navy.
A sonar operator aboard a Norwegian survey vessel just detected something on the North Sea floor that made him call his entire crew to the screen. Sitting 180 feet beneath the surface was the unmistakable silhouette of a World War II submarine. Fully intact, conning tower still standing, at coordinates where no submarine has ever been recorded lost. His team contacted naval archives in Norway, Britain, Germany, Russia, and the United States. Every response was identical. That vessel is not ours. We have no record of it. Here's why experts say that shouldn't be possible. Every submarine lost during the Second World War has been accounted for. Every single one. The records were kept by obsessive bureaucracies on both sides of the conflict, cross-referenced for 8 decades, and verified down to individual crew members. There is no such thing as an unknown World War II submarine. Except, now there is. And the deeper investigators looked, the more disturbing the answers became. The Sonar contact. Summer of 2023. A Norwegian hydrographic survey vessel is running routine seabed mapping in the North Sea, updating navigational charts that have been updated 100 times before. Erik Lindgren, the chief surveyor, and his crew had been working the same grid for weeks. They expected nothing. This stretch of ocean had been surveyed, cataloged, and documented so thoroughly that finding anything new was essentially a statistical impossibility. Then the multi-beam sonar painted a contact at approximately 300 meters offshore from the Norwegian coast. Lindgren leaned forward. The shape was unmistakable, 70 meters long, cylindrical hull, a conning tower breaking the silhouette amidships. He'd seen enough wreck signatures to know exactly what he was looking at, a submarine. He marked the coordinates, noted the time, and kept working. Wrecks are common in these waters. The North Sea swallowed hundreds of vessels during 6 years of war, one more submarine on the bottom, though it was routine. But here's the catch. When Lindgren returned to port and started cross-referencing the contact against historical wreck databases, the routine ended. Nothing matched. No recorded submarine within 5 nautical miles of that position. He pulled up every lost record he could access. He ran the coordinates again. Nothing. He contacted the Norwegian Coastal Administration. They searched their files. No match. He reached out to the UK Hydrographic Office, the people who maintain the most extensive database of war losses in the North Sea. They searched. Nothing fit. He tried Germany's Deutsches Schifffahrtsmuseum, the final authority on German naval losses. They found no record of any submarine sinking at those coordinates. Lindgren later told colleagues that each negative response hit harder than the last. The first one, you think it's a filing error, he said. By the 4th or 5th, you start to realize something is genuinely wrong. Within 3 months, every major naval archive in Europe had been contacted. Every submarine database had been searched. Every possible lead had been exhausted. And every single answer was the same. We have no record of this vessel. Not one country on Earth would claim it. The ROV dive. A remotely operated vehicle was dispatched to get eyes on the wreck. It descended through frigid black water and found the submarine resting on the seabed, listing slightly to port. 70 years of marine growth covered most surfaces, but the hull was remarkably intact. The conning tower stood clear of the sediment. Deck gun mounts were visible. The propeller shaft extended cleanly from the stern. And get this. The ROV circled the wreck for hours, recording from every angle. When analysts reviewed the footage, they looked for what should have been the easiest detail to confirm: identifying marks, hull numbers painted on the conning tower, national insignia, builder plates. There were none. No numbers, no insignia, no plates. Nothing to tell anyone on Earth who built this submarine or where it came from. The footage went out to naval historians across Europe. The British Admiralty's records, exhaustive logs of every submarine they sank or tracked during the war, return no match. German naval archives, which documented every U-boat ever built, every mission, every loss, found no vessel matching this wreck. Soviet archives opened after the Cold War showed nothing. American records showed nothing. Dr. Hanna Sørensen, a maritime archaeologist at the Norwegian Maritime Museum who reviewed the survey data, put it bluntly, "This shouldn't exist. We're not talking about a gray area. We're talking about a submarine that, according to every record kept by every nation involved in that war, was never built. But it was built, and it was sitting right there on the seafloor, which meant either the records were wrong or something about this submarine had been deliberately hidden. And the only way to find out which was to go back down. The impossible problem. Now pay attention to this part, because this is where the story goes from strange to genuinely unsettling. The Second World War was not some distant medieval conflict where ships vanished without a trace. This was an industrialized war fought by bureaucratic nation-states that documented everything. The German Kriegsmarine logged every U-boat ever commissioned, more than 1,150 submarines, each with a hull number, commissioning date, construction yard, and a service record tracking every patrol, every commander, every crew change. When a U-boat was lost, the circumstances were investigated, recorded, and filed. After the war, Allied intelligence spent years compiling captured German records into comprehensive databases. The British were equally obsessive. The Admiralty tracking rooms plotted German submarine movements across the Atlantic with a precision that bordered on paranoia. Every contact logged, every attack documented, every confirmed kill investigated. Post-war analysis cross-referenced German records with British operational logs to build a complete, interlocking picture of the submarine war. Think about that for a second. Two opposing bureaucracies, each independently documenting the same conflict from opposite sides, and their records match. Dr. Thomas Reuter, a naval historian at the German Maritime Museum in Bremerhaven, who was among the first specialists consulted, described his reaction as professionally alarming. He said, "I've spent 20 years working with these records. They are the gold standard of military documentation. When someone tells me there's an unidentified Type 7 on the seafloor, my first instinct is that they've made a mistake. But the data was clean, the wreck was real, and it wasn't in our files." Here's what most people don't realize. Of the 709 Type 7 submarines commissioned by Germany, 694 were lost during the war. The remaining 15 were surrendered or scuttled. The fate of every single one is documented. If this submarine is a Type 7, which every expert who examined the sonar data believes it is, then it should have a hull number, a service record, and a documented loss report. It has none of them. Researchers checked every U-boat loss within 200 nautical miles. The hull design was wrong. The dates were wrong. The circumstances didn't align. Soviet submarines ruled out. British submarines ruled out. All 79 wartime losses have known fates, and the hull shape doesn't match. American submarines operated primarily in the Pacific, and the few that served in European waters are all accounted for. That leaves a German U-boat sitting on the seafloor where no German U-boat should be. The records say it doesn't exist, but it does, and no historian alive could explain how. The forensic evidence. The Norwegian team returned to the site in late 2023 with advanced scanning equipment. If the archives couldn't identify this submarine, the wreck itself would have to talk. A high-resolution sonar system built a three-dimensional model accurate to within centimeters. The measurements locked it in. 71.5 meters long, 6.2 meter beam. Type 6, C, the most common variant of the most common U-boat class in the German Navy. Over 560 were built between 1940 and 1945, workhorses of the Kriegsmarine, reliable, effective, and above all, meticulously documented. Every single Type 6-8 lost in the North Sea had already been found and identified. Every one. The conning tower configuration matched late war models, anti-aircraft gun platforms, additional armor, meaning this boat was built after 1943. That narrowed the construction window to less than 2 years, and during those 2 years, every Type 5 IIC commissioned by Germany was logged. But here is the catch. The hull numbers that should have been painted prominently on the conning tower, standard procedure for every U-boat, required so friendly aircraft could identify submarines, on the surface, were gone. Not corroded, not faded, gone. Other painted surfaces on the hull were still partially visible after 7 decades underwater. The area where numbers should have been showed nothing. Either the paint was deliberately removed, or the numbers were never applied. A submarine stripped of its identity. When the team returned in early 2024, they brought an ROV fitted with a manipulator arm to collect physical samples. The vehicle scraped away decades of marine growth, exposed bare metal, and cut small steel samples from the pressure hull plating. Dr. Ingrid Backer, a metallurgical analyst at Sintef in Trondheim, examined the samples. The steel was definitively German. Composition matched submarines built at Deutsche Werke and Germania Werft in Kiel between 1943 and 1945. Manganese content, carbon levels, trace elements, everything aligned with late-war German submarine construction. Then Backer found something that didn't fit. The steel quality was too high, she said. By 1944, Germany was running out of high-grade materials. Late-war submarines used inferior steel, higher impurity levels, inconsistent alloy composition. This submarine's steel showed none of those compromises. It was clean, consistent, well-manufactured. Whoever built this boat had access to strategic reserves that weren't going to ordinary production lines. Think about that for a second. A submarine with no identity, built with steel that shouldn't have been available. What the wreck revealed. The ROV peered through damaged hull sections into the interior compartments. The forward torpedo room showed 4 tubes, standard Type 5 IIC configuration. No torpedoes visible, suggesting they had been fired or removed. The control room beneath the conning tower was too corroded to reveal much. Brass fittings turned green, steel framework standing, everything organic consumed by the sea. The engine room still held remnants of the twin diesels, each rated at roughly 1,000 horsepower, sitting in their mountings, matching Type 5, all IWC specifications exactly. But the battery compartment. Now, pay attention to this part. Lead-acid batteries in World War II submarines were massive, cells filled with sulfuric acid and lead plates. When these submarines sank, their batteries typically stayed intact for decades, slowly leaking lead into surrounding sediment. Environmental surveys near war wrecks consistently detect elevated lead levels. It's one of the most reliable signatures of a sunken submarine. The lead levels around this wreck were almost zero. The batteries had been removed. A submarine without batteries cannot dive, cannot operate submerged, cannot function as a submarine at all. Someone had deliberately gutted this boat before sending it to the bottom. And get this. The ROV accessed the conning tower interior through a corroded hatch and found the remains of periscope housings. The periscopes themselves had long since corroded away, but the mounts remained. On one mount, barely visible through 7 decades of decay, the camera caught something. 3 letters stamped into the metal. C.Z.W. Carl Zeiss Werke, one of Germany's premier optical manufacturers. Zeiss supplied periscopes to most German submarines and kept meticulous production records. Serial numbers, delivery dates, receiving vessels. If the serial number next to those letters could be recovered, it would identify exactly when the periscope was manufactured and which submarine received it. One stamp could solve the entire mystery. The serial number was completely corroded. Only the 3 letters survived, enough to confirm German manufacture, not enough to name the boat. 3 weeks of forensic survey confirmed every detail. A German Type IIC, built between 1943 and 1945, deliberately stripped of batteries, identity, and anything that could link it to a name, then sent to the bottom. The 3-dimensional model was distributed to submarine experts around the world. Analysts at the German U-boat archive examined it in detail. They confirmed the design matched every measurable specification for a Type 6C, but without hull numbers or builder plates, they could not connect it to any individual vessel in their records. British naval historians reached the same conclusion. German, late war, Type 5 IIC, and completely absent from every database they maintained. Not a single archive on Earth could explain which boat it was, or why someone had gone to such lengths to erase it. The answer wasn't hiding in the ocean. It was hiding in a place far more mundane. If you've made it this far, you've seen how a submarine appeared where no records say one should, how every archive in Europe denied its existence, and how the wreck itself was deliberately erased before it sank. Drop a comment below if you're following this investigation. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on the bell. Because what comes next changes everything we thought we knew about how complete these records really are. The answer. February 2024. A German naval historian named Klaus Hoffmann was not looking for a missing submarine. He was researching something utterly mundane: fuel deliveries to Norwegian U-boat bases during the final months of the war. Logistics files, manifests, tonnage reports, the kind of paperwork that puts most researchers to sleep. Then he turned a page and stopped breathing. A logistics file referenced a submarine designated U-3135. The number fell squarely within the standard Type 5 IIC numbering sequence. Hoffmann knew the U-boat registry by heart. He had spent his career inside those records, and he knew immediately that U-3135 was not in them. He checked the official databases, nothing. He checked the cross-referenced Allied compilations, nothing. U-3135, according to every authoritative source on German submarine operations, did not exist. Here's what most people don't realize about what happened next. Hoffmann didn't celebrate. He panicked. If there was a commissioned U-boat that I'd never seen in 20 years of research, he later said, then either I had missed something catastrophic or the entire filing system had a hole in it that nobody knew about. Both possibilities were terrifying. He contacted the team investigating the unidentified wreck. Over 3 months, working across multiple archives in Germany, Norway, and Britain, they pieced together a paper trail scattered like shrapnel across bureaucratic filing systems for nearly 8 decades. U-3135 had been commissioned in October 1944, but not for combat. It was assigned to experimental snorkel testing under a testing command, a separate administrative branch from the operational fleet. Because it never went on combat patrols, it was never entered into the operational U-boat databases. It was filed under testing command records instead. And here is the catch. When Allied forces captured German archives, at the end of the war, they prioritized combat records. Operational U-boat files were seized, translated, cross-referenced, and compiled into the databases that researchers have treated as definitive for 80 years. Experimental submarines went into separate collections, different filing cabinets, different buildings, different classification systems. Post-war researchers never searched them because they had no reason to believe anything was missing. The records existed. They had always existed. They were simply in a place nobody thought to look. On April 28, 1945, 6 days before Germany's surrender, U-3135 received scuttling orders. The crew removed the batteries. They painted over the hull numbers. They towed the boat northwest of the Norwegian coast and sent her to the bottom. The coordinates matched the wreck location to within 2 nautical miles. Hoffmann described the moment of confirmation as the strangest feeling of my career, relief and dread at the same time. Relief because the mystery was solved. Dread because if one submarine could hide in plain sight for 80 years, the question wasn't whether there were others. The question was how many. The submarine had not vanished because someone destroyed the evidence. It had not vanished because of a conspiracy spanning multiple governments. It had vanished because of something far more mundane and far more frightening. A filing decision made by a clerk in 1944 that placed one submarine's records in a cabinet no researcher would open for nearly 8 decades. The greatest disappearing act in naval history wasn't espionage, it was paperwork. What else are we missing? U-3135 has been identified. Its history pieced together from fragments scattered across multiple archives. The mystery is solved, except for the questions it raises about what else we might have missed. The Second World War produced more documentation than any previous conflict. Millions of reports, logs, orders, and records, compiled by militaries obsessed with bureaucracy and control. We assume that this mountain of documentation is complete, that everything has been cataloged, cross-referenced, analyzed. The discovery of U-3135 proves that assumption is fragile. This submarine did not disappear because records were destroyed. It disappeared because records were organized by categories that made sense to filing clerks in 1945, but created blind spots for historians decades later. The documents were there the entire time. They were simply not where anyone thought to look. How many other submarines, how many other ships, how many other military operations exist in similar bureaucratic limbo? How many files sit misfiled in archives, waiting for someone to stumble across them while researching something else entirely? The answer is uncomfortable. We don't know. We can't know. The archives are too vast, the filing systems too complex, the possibilities too numerous. Think about that for a second. 80 years of researchers, historians, and governments treating the World War II submarine record as closed, as complete, as settled fact. And a single accidental sonar contact proved that confidence was built on an assumption nobody had ever tested. Not that the records were accurate, but that all the records were in the same place. The sonar that found U-3135 was conducting a routine survey. The historian who identified it was researching fuel deliveries. Neither was looking for a missing submarine. Both discoveries were accidental, a combination of luck and persistence that could just as easily never have happened. And if that sonar vessel had been mapping a grid 50 meters to the east, U-3135 would still be sitting on the seafloor right now. Unknown, unclaimed, impossible. The ocean keeps its secrets for as long as we fail to ask the right questions. And sometimes, as U-3135 proves, the secrets aren't in the ocean at all. They're in filing cabinets, misfiled under the wrong category, invisible until someone looks in a place no one thought to search. So, what do you think? Are there other submarines, other ships, other pieces of history hiding in plain sight within the archives? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you want to see more investigations into the mysteries that bureaucracy buried, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive. The ocean is full of wrecks, but sometimes the most important discoveries are made on dry land, in dusty archives, among papers that everyone assumed had already been read. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep searching for the truth beneath the surface.